We talked about passwords, and now I would like to turn to the related topic of multi-factor authentication. Why is it needed and what is it? In fact, the issue is actually quite simple. No matter how reliable a password we choose, there remain numerous ways for attackers to gain access to it. They can look over our shoulder when we type them on the keyboard. They can guess them. If these passwords may not be the most reliable and you did not follow the recommendations we provided earlier, passwords can be intercepted when transmitted over the network through unsecured channels, especially if you are using a public Wi-Fi hotspot in an internet cafe or not using a VPN, and in this case, the password will be transmitted in plain text. A password can ultimately be guessed, although the probability of this happening is low. Nonetheless, it cannot be dismissed. And finally, you might end up using someone else's password when it has been leaked from a service that you are currently using or have used in the past. And if you do not change your passwords often enough, it means that a previously leaked password is likely still being used in one service or another, on the internet, or on your computer. No matter how reliable your password is, it is essential to further protect your account, your online resources, and your local resources from cybercriminals and fraudsters. And this is where multi-factor authentication will help you. Authentication is the establishment of authenticity, meaning you must prove that it is indeed you. In everyday life, you use a password that only you know, and therefore only you can provide it, type it on the keyboard, and so on. However, as we understand, a password alone is no longer reliable. Therefore, other factors are emerging. What could these factors be? In general, today experts identify three main factors that are used in authentication. In fact, there are many more, but overall, these are the three factors. The first is the knowledge factor, which is the password. We know something. Keep it a secret, and it is this that sets us apart from others who do not know that secret. That secret is precisely the password. The second factor is the possession factor. For example, this could be a phone, a smart card, a hardware token, or a USB flash drive that stores something secret. Well, let's not go into details about what this could be. Finally, the third factor is the ownership factor. This is what is known as biometric authentication. It can be a facial image, it can be an iris of the eye, it can be fingerprints, it can be the geometry of the palm, it can be voice. There are many biometric traits that can be used for the authentication and identification of a person. In the virtual world, two factors are actively used in Russia. These are the image of our face and our voice. Thus, single-factor authentication is the use of only one attribute, usually a password. Two-factor and, accordingly, multi-factor authentication is the use of more than one factor, with which we stand out from the rest. This can be the knowledge factor and the possession factor. It can be the knowledge factor, the ownership factor, or it may even involve all three factors, depending on how secure a system we need. It is very important to note that when we enter a login and password on any service or portal, and then receive a one-time code in the form of an SMS, this does not constitute multi-factor or two-factor authentication, no matter what anyone tells you, because the factor remains unchanged, the knowledge factor. It's quite simple to imagine that you log into one of your services using your phone, and at the same time, you receive a one-time code via SMS on that very same phone. Firstly, SMS messages are relatively easy to intercept as they transmit data in an open format. Secondly, if malware has infected your smartphone, especially if it is running the Android platform, it can successfully intercept both your main password and the one-time code that was sent via SMS. In this case, there can be no talk of increased security, so it is essential to always differentiate between two-step or three-step, five-step, or however many steps of verification with a single factor. and multi-factor or at least two-factor authentication, where you use two different factors to access a particular service. For example, if you are the owner of Apple devices and you have enabled two-factor authentication on your account, this means that, for instance, when logging in from your MacBook, the second factor will be sent either to your tablet or to your phone. That is where you will receive a one-time code that you will need to enter from your MacBook. Yes, this is also a one-time code, but it hasn't arrived as an SMS. It has appeared on another device that you own. Accordingly, you have two factors: the main password that you know and the second device that you own. It is precisely to this that the one-time code is sent, or it is simply displayed there. Therefore, this is a very important point. Multi-factor authentication is reliable when the factors are separated rather than combined within a single device. What can be used for multi-factor authentication if you use Apple products? This functionality is usually built in. If you are connecting to any external services, social networks, government services, your personal email, and similar platforms, you may need a special application for multi-factor authentication that will significantly enhance the security of your accounts and online services. There are many such applications, and most of them are free for personal use. In the corporate environment, they have additional functionality for which they charge money. For your personal use, you can utilize the Yandex Key app, Google Authenticator, or something else. Indeed, there are quite a number of such applications in the App Store, Google Play, and Restore, so choose the ones you like the most, are accustomed to, and find convenient. In other words, one application will be used for multi-factor authentication across various services, including government services, online banking, email, YouTube, and so on, wherever such an option exists. Where should multi-factor authentication be enabled? At the very least, on government services. It is also recommended to enable this when using services and applications from Apple and Google on your smartphones running iOS, macOS, or Android. Certainly worth enabling two-factor authentication when working with email, social networks, and online banking. If you are a big fan of gaming platforms and have a considerable number of artifacts that are quite valuable, and they may even be worth a lot of money, then it is worth enabling multi-factor authentication on gaming platforms. In general, multi-factor authentication should be implemented everywhere that this functionality is supported. This does not require any extra effort from you. You just need to tick the appropriate box in your service settings, synchronize your application, which you downloaded for free from the App Store, Google Play, or Root Store on your smartphones. Synchronize these applications with the service that supports multi-factor authentication, and that's it. In this case, you are very secure, and even in the event of theft, leakage, interception, or guessing of your password, you can be highly confident that your account will remain protected. Minimum effort, maximum security is what multi-factor authentication offers you. Don't miss out on this opportunity.